And now, ReclinerMedia.com presents The Stalking Dead with Mark Saxton and Michael Spillin.
Watching him trying to struggle to say, Maggie, I'll find you. Absolutely soul crushed.
Now, Mark and Michael are on.
And welcome into the Stalking Dead here, Recliner Media Network, reclinermedia.com. Don't forget to go all of our socials, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well at Recliner Media. Go to Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, go to our home base, reclinermedia.com, for all of that goodness as well. Welp, Mark, first of all, how the heck are you? And here we are, the aforementioned season finale of our rewatch podcast of the OG Walking Dead series. And there wasn't much in this first episode, but we'll get to hefty more seasons, as there was only 6 episodes in this first season. But how the heck are you?
Doing good. Can't complain. First of the day of my set of days off. And excited to talk about this season finale. Finally there.
Yeah. There was a lot going on. Most of it, as we mentioned in the last episode, most of it based in the CDC, and we spoiler alert, we say goodbye to a couple of characters in this episode, including the new one we just met last episode. But without giving too much away, and I get it, it's been 15, almost 20 years since this first season premiered. That is difficult to think about. Maybe it hasn't been that long, at least 15, but about a decade and a half since this first season premiered. But without giving too much away before we dive into things, what did you make of this season finale? Was it a good cliffhanger? Was it everything you hoped and dreamed? Just what was your overall impression without getting too detailed?
I think they once again, this as we keep mentioning, they keep nailing this season all the way through. We've talked about before how this was like a starter project for them at this time, trying to make sure that it's going to go further, and that it's going to blow up the way that it did. And I think the cliffhanger for that reasoning, for the reasoning of, hey, we got to keep this going. Let's keep people enticed. Let's keep people interested. I think that cliffhanger was the perfect way to go out, to kind of capture the audience, even a first-time watcher, for that time frame. If all you caught was episode 6, because now you're like, well, shit, I got all these questions and no answers. You know what I mean? So I think the cliffhanger was perfect.
Yeah. So we will dive into it play by play, scene by scene, pretty much as we go through it. And yeah, this was a momentum shifter, if you will, as well. I think I'm going to point out kind of a lot of things that I noticed rewatching this, Mark, and that was, again, we've touched on this throughout this first season in the first 5 episodes, and just character shifts. You kind of see power shifts in this episode. You see people give up, obviously, and then just how it's going to lead into season 2. Once again, this episode titled TS-19, and we'll get a better understanding of what that means here in a bit. So this episode starts off, Mark, with what? A flashback, which again we crave and love and just we gush all over these flashbacks. But it is Shane in the hospital, going back to when Rick was still in his coma, or whatever he was in. We're assuming it was a coma. Do you, by the way, can you slip, I guess, is that the correct term, slip into a coma by getting shot? Is that, I guess other things lead up to going into a coma. I did not go to medical school, Mark, so I'm assuming that's kind of on track for one way to going into a coma.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible, but it would be a medically induced coma, right? Where they are going to force you into a state of sedation, and for your body to heal. And basically the only thing they messed up was they needed to intubate him so that they could feed him with all the liquid nutrients that his body would need to continue to keep living. So yeah, other than that, they kind of nailed it, because you can, like I said, go into a medically induced coma from any injury if they need you to.
Right. So we still see him in his coma, and he's just kind of stuck there. Shane obviously tries everything he can. So Shane was kind of telling the truth of he was trying everything he could to get Rick out of there. He goes into the hallway, doesn't see any doctors, any nurses, anything really like that. Maybe a couple staff, maybe a couple nurses were mixed in there. The soldiers are shooting at people, just taking everybody out. He has to hide in the room. One soldier goes in there and looks around, and maybe Rick was lucky that the guy just didn't put a bullet in his head for good measure, but just kind of left him alone. And yeah, Shane tried to lift Rick out of the hospital bed. I mean, he brought another hospital bed so he could lift him onto the other one, but he obviously noticed that Rick was still hooked up to all the machines and stuff like that. Didn't want to, completely kill him, I guess, which is I'm going to bring up another point here in a second. But he tried to lift, noticed all the machines were still hooked up, and then did he think? I mean, he put his head to Rick's chest, and he explains later in the episode he did not hear a heartbeat. I mean, there was a lot of noise, a lot of screaming, a lot of gunfire, so maybe that's why. Yeah, this was just and then it's like a big. You hear like jets are flying overhead. Something hits the hospital. It shakes the whole thing, and then all the machines turn off anyway. My question is, why didn't Rick at that, or why didn't Shane at that point just take Rick anyway? Because he was afraid that if he unplugged him from the machines, he was gonna totally die. He didn't hear a heartbeat, so he thought he was dead. All the machines turned off, so Shane could he have just taken him off the machines at that point, since they all got shut off? Or did he 100% think he was dead at that point?
In all honesty, watching that flashback and that kind of honest reaction, I think he really thought he was dead. And with what do they tell people, normal people, like, if you don't really know anything about medical, which that's me, you get told all the time, without these machines, they wouldn't be alive. They're breathing for him. They're doing this. They're doing that. So I very much believe that Shane thought, Shane thought Rick was dead in that moment. And I'm telling you, like, being in situations where you have to check pulses or listen to heartbeats, sometimes that can be extremely difficult just on the regular, let alone when you're getting worried about getting shot at or zombies eating you. I can't imagine you're calm enough to hear a heartbeat or feel one. So I think he just thought it was game over right then and there. And then if you think about it too, let's just say he does get him on the bed. He's trying to outrun the army and the zombies. How far can he really get pushing that bed, especially if you're worried about, machines keeping him alive?
Yeah, so there could have been obviously multiple reasons why Shane just didn't. But then he eventually said, screw it. And then again, if he didn't think that Rick was dead, or thought he was dead, why did he push a bed, I guess, in front, which again, kind of saved Rick's life in another way as too. I mean, he wasn't really making any noise until he woke up. So I guess it was a good play to push the bed in front of the door as well. So again, something to think about, like, yeah, and then he obviously goes back to Lori and Carl and says, yeah, Rick didn't make it. And then he explains in this episode later, we'll find out that he did put his chest out. He did not hear a heartbeat. Like you said, it's probably hard with all the chaos going on. And so, yeah, that was my question in this opening scene, was like, well, when the whatever hit the hospital and turned all the machines off, why didn't he just carry him? I didn't even think about the obstacles that Shane would have had to jump through on his way out. So, I mean, he did have a gun, but that's only going to get him so far when the military's running through with AR-15. So that would have been probably a little more difficult. So good call on that one. We hit the credits. After that, we go to the CDC, and the group finally meets Jenner face to face. It's kind of a showdown, I guess. Everyone's pointing guns at each other, and then they get to talking, and Jenner eventually says, listen, your price of admission is everyone submits a blood test. Jenner shows them around the CDC, kind of cool, equipped with beds, a little library, cafeteria, everything that this group could want after, days on the road and not eating and sleeping with one eye open, so to speak. So, then as they get to that main kind of computer area, they ask where everyone is. Jenner said, he's the only one left. He's it. And then he gives Andrea a blood test, and she feels a little queasy. And then Jackie explains, it's been a while since any of us ate. And then we kind of see everyone let loose. Everyone's eating, everyone's drinking, and everyone's having a good time. And then Shane has to, of course, burst that bubble and say, like, throws more shade at Rick, by the way, saying, "Hey, Rick, we came here for answers, and we found one guy. Like, we came here for answers, and we found only this one guy." And kind of just Jenner explains like this, like, we lost communication. Like, I'm it. Everyone left to be with their families. Everyone kind of opted for suicide, which was really dark. And even Glenn said it, like, "Dang, you know what? You're kind of a buzzkill." So, again, the constant throwing shade at Rick is nonstop in these last couple episodes from the direction of Shane. But what did you make of this scene? Just kind of everyone finally being able to let loose, and the last time we saw this group let loose, Mark, was the kind of the fish fry, and then all hell broke loose shortly after that. But knowing that they're inside, they're basically underground, protected. What did you make of this group finally being able to let loose without having to look over their shoulder?
I think that was like a breath of fresh air for, watching the group, like watching the group, like, finally they get to, like you said, relax without looking over their shoulder. The kids kind of get to be kids for a minute. The adults get to be the adults at, like, that cookout setting where kind of, the kids are running around. Oh, but, let's let Carl try a glass of wine. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Like, that was kind of fun. And just like you said, watching everybody, the relaxation kind of fall over everybody. And yeah, I really hated how Shane kind of brought the group back to reality. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a definitely important conversation to have, but you also got to let the group breathe and live a little bit before, why not? Yeah, as much as everybody's been through, when, you get things that, we have every day that, we take for granted that they're cherishing, like, let them enjoy the moment, and then we can talk business.
Yeah, and I think Shane is just on a mission to I think he's just on a mission to, I don't think he wants to destroy the group's hope, but he so badly wants to be right and wants Rick to be wrong, so that Lori will choose him, which is it's not going to happen as long as Rick is there. And he's trying so hard to I guess, once again, for lack of a better term, destroy that marriage. And so he's just going at it from every angle, just trying to break this up, to just do everything he can to destroy it. And we get to see that clearly in a scene coming up, which was, it was very uncomfortable. We'll get to that one. We'll get to that one in a minute. Speaking of stuff we enjoy and maybe take for granted every day, everyone's enjoying a nice hot shower. Everyone's kind of singing, dancing. Of course, Rick and Lori are making out in the shower. And then the one person who's not enjoying it is Andrea. She's kind of in the fetal position, sitting down in the shower. She's later throwing up, kind of thinking what Jenner was saying. Like, I mean, there's nothing left. Like, I'm it. Like, there's no communication anywhere. We haven't really figured out anything about what's going on. And so Andrea, I think that's where her personality sort of shifts in this episode, and maybe propels her going forward. We won't know until next season what that looks like, Mark. But in this instance, she is just, I think in that moment, as she's throwing up, she has already decided, like Jenner said, she's going to opt out. She's going to go down the suicide route, which is really sad.
Yeah, and the shift in characters is right on point. You hit it on the head, because you can definitely see where not only the loss of all hope, but just the mindset of why bother, the what are we even doing anymore? Why are we fighting? And in any situation where in a survival situation, when somebody loses the need or the want to fight for survival, it's never a good look.
Yeah, it's really not. So we get to see that. And by the way, how bad does Dale want Andrea? I mean, it is so clear that at first, they kind of portray him as like a father figure to her and Amy, and then it almost seems like this could be totally off and totally wrong, Mark, and tell me if you tell me if you have a different idea. But as soon as like Amy died, like the father figure of both of them went, and then he was like, now I can make my move. It was almost that kind of a gross, disgusting shift for Dale. We talk about character shifts, but now he's like, I'm in like Flynn, bro. Like, this is it. Like, I am going to make my move. I'm going to hold her hair while she's puking. Like, good boyfriends do that, right? So it almost seems like he's trying to make his move, and we see even more of it. It is kind of a weird, like, I'm making my move. It still is like that, but it also still is like that weird father figure. It's almost a weird, just again, gross combination of both. But I mean, again, tell me if I'm off base or if you have a different opinion, because that's what it seems like. Daryl's trying to make his move.
Yeah, no,
Daryl, excuse me, Dale, not Daryl.
Yeah,
it's very close names.
It's definitely a weird dynamic. I felt weirded out by that dynamic as well, because it's like, all right, are you the father figure, or you're trying to, is this a move? What's your angle here? I wish they would have cleaned that up a little bit better, because it needs to be clear cut one way or the other, so we know how to feel on it.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird all over the place. So again, could be totally off topic, but that's what it seems like. Seems like to me. And then Rick goes in. Kind of everyone's really just kind of drunk and just falling all over the place in this episode. Rick comes in, talks to Jenner, and he says, I just been trying to keep everyone surviving. I haven't even told my son really what I think about everything. And Jenner says it'll all be okay, knowing damn well they don't. Again, spoiler alert to like 10 15 minutes later in this episode, Mark, but we don't see the clock ticking down on the wall until the last like 5-10 minutes of this episode. But Jenner damn well knows why it's counting down and where it is. We don't see it until Dale asks about it in a few minutes in episode related time. But that's why he kind of looks at Rick and says it'll all be okay, because guess what? Something big's going to go down. So yeah, Rick just kind of says that. He says it'll all be okay. I mean, again, knowing damn well what's going to happen here in the next hour or so. And then we kind of go to a nice little scene, kind of take the tension off a little bit for only about a minute. Carol's in like this little library nook thing with the kids, and she leaves. Lori's like, I'm going to look at some books. And then guess who pops in and scares the shit out of her and just gets super weird. This is where I think we've talked about the character shift and personality shift for Shane, kind of transforming into that villain that we see really 100% in season 2. But this is where I think where Lori just finally puts her foot down or her nails in his neck and says, just get the F out of here. But I mean, Shane's like, I'm gonna say a few things and you gonna listen. And Lori, of course, Lori's like, this isn't the time. And Shane, I guess a good point, says, there's never a good time. So this is it right here. And basically Shane's like, how can you treat me like this? And I mean, she goes, you told me my husband was dead. And that's when he says, I put my head to his chest and I did not hear a heartbeat. Like, I don't know if it was the guns. I don't know if it was the explosions. I don't know what it was, but I did not hear a heartbeat. And he goes, if I could have traded places with him, I could. And honestly, like, for as much as Shane is batshit crazy, like, he did throw out a few points. Like, he did try to do all he could in the hospital. There's, like we said, there's only so much that you could do. And then, I mean, this is kind of where it gets weird. Also, he kind of starts touching Lori in inappropriate places. And I mean, Mark, this is borderline R word in this scene, like, borderline. And then she finally just claws him in the neck. And again, I think that clawing of the neck, like a freaking Wolverine, I think that is what just the quiet set off, quiet departure of Shane's. I'm done. Like, I'm done being the nice guy. I'm done trying. He even said, I saved your life a bunch of times and stuff. I saved you and your boy. I mean, he always has that in his back pocket. And you could, I guess, I don't know. We haven't been in a zombie apocalypse, Mark. I don't know how much you can use the I saved you and your kid's life card, but Lori's getting sick of it. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, what did you make of this scene with Shane and Lori? Again, borderline R word type of behavior from Shane, and then not only that, I mean, he's drunk on top of it, so you're not going to make any good decisions when you're inebriated. But I mean, yeah, just your overall thoughts on this particular scene.
Yeah, no, this is where I really started disliking the writers to begin with, the very first time, because Shane was my favorite character because he was that best friend, who was really trying and trying to make all the moves. And then, it started with him and Lori getting together. You started to dislike him a little bit more. And I'm like, man, I feel like his character wouldn't do that, but indeed he did. And then, because like, my argument's always been, I mean, how long really are we talking before they already moved on without, the husband and the best friend? And then, then you get this, this ongoing growing hatred, I guess, if you will. And then this scene right here kind of just, it boils over. And this is where you're like, I no longer like this guy at all. Like, any hope that I had for him is gone. If he was, I mean, I guess a man about it, he would have told her everything up front, what he did and what happened with Rick. And you know what I mean? Like, hey, this is everything that took place. Not use it as a last ditch effort to try and make a pass at her like he did. And like you said, obviously when one's inebriated, you're never going to make the best decisions. But
yeah, then you want something and cannot have it now.
Right, exactly. And then, trying to physically force himself upon her. Then that's when you're like, I really hate this guy, dude. Like Rick needs to kill him, spoiler alert. But it's it gave me the ick, it was you totally shifted on how you felt about that character. Now you're kind of looking at him kind of like we looked at Ed. And that clawing, that desperation defense move, and obviously she's going to be out maneuvered, overpowered and everything else by a guy like Shane. And you're just like, man, yeah, I hated it. I hated the turn in this character, and I hated the fact that he did what he did. And although he had good points, like I said, he was using it as a ploy, which kind of makes it a bitch move. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And then we fast forward a little bit. It's the next morning. Everyone is practically hungover from drinking the night before, which, again, we kind of discussed it. They kind of deserve that kind of night off, if you will, to kind of celebrate being safe for however long this is going to last. It just seems like they're almost like prepared to never stay in one place more than what seems like a few days. We don't really know the timetable of how long they stayed up by the quarry, but it seemed like at least a few weeks that they stayed there. Again, they start hammering Jenner with questions in the morning. He brings them back to the computer lab. He throws on the screen. He asks Vi, by the way. Vi, is that considered a new character? The woman voice of the lab and stuff like that. But anyway,
Siri of the lab.
Yeah, Siri of the lab. And he throws on a basically like a demonstration. He says this is TS-19, so there is the name of our episode. It is said by Dr. Edwin Jenner in this episode, and so that's where that comes from. Obviously, test subject 19. Jenner shows the group some brain scans, and if this is, I've never seen a brain scan in person. I don't know if this is what it looks like, Mark, but if it is, it's pretty cool. All the it looks like just like a bunch of Christmas lights strung up. And so it's just, a bunch of lights going in and out, brain waves and ripples or whatever. I don't know what the correct terms are, and then he asks Vi to kind of fast forward to different events and stuff like that. And then it shows the the event process, the infection process kind of taking over. The brain goes dark, and they fast forward to the final event, which is a little bit of red light trickling in the brain, and they're just kind of like, what is that? And he said that's the infection taking over. And Lori asked a good question. She goes, it restarts the brain, and he goes, only the brain stem. It just gets them up and moving. You don't see the lights like we saw just a couple seconds earlier that makes you. Basically, is what he said, and basically says too, like, we still don't know what this is. Like, I've been in the dark for almost a month, so we get another bit of timetable information that Jenner's been in the dark, basically by himself for a month. We don't know how long he's been in there with other people. So, again, as we try to piece this timetable together, we still don't really have a correct amount of time in which this is all gone down. And in that moment that Jenner was like, I've been in the dark. We still don't know what this is. It is just, I think in that moment, Mark, I think they show a glimpse of Rick's face, and I think it hits him in that moment, like, coming here was a mistake. Like, God damn it, Shane was right.
Yeah, I agree, especially when, you got a guy who was, fighting the good fight, if you will, and like, guys, we can save the world, to fuck it. We're not. There's no hope. We're not doing this. There's no end but death, and like you said, that look on Rick's face is like, not only are we gonna die, but Shane was right too. Like,
yeah, I think that's what hurt him the most, is he didn't care that going there was a mistake, but the fact that Shane didn't really want to go there is what's really, really, really eating him. This is kind of where Dale notices the clock on the wall, and it's counting down. I think it was like an hour and 20 something minutes at this point. And he says, what is that? That means, he says, when the generators run out of fuel, like, all hell's going to break loose. And Vi explains, basically says it's going to set the air on fire, stuff like that. And then we kind of fast forward. Jenner is at his desk, now wearing a tie, by the way. So he's getting dressed up for this. He's getting dressed up for this event that's counting down. He puts on his lab coat, grabs a bottle of liquor from Daryl, starts drinking it, just out of answers, out of hope himself and stuff like that. He explains that the French were the last to communicate, that they had maybe had something in the works to figure out what this is, to cure what this is. And when I heard that again, Mark, I was like, the French, is this a foreshadow to the Daryl series?
I thought the same. That was a neat little Easter egg, if that was intentional.
Yeah. So we get to, again, maybe a foreshadow, because if you've watched the Daryl Dixon series, you know what we're talking about, is he travels all the way to Europe. And then he also says it's better this way, as Jenner's explaining what's going to happen. You see, and we saw when Jenner was talking a few minutes earlier, we saw the look on Rick's face, like, oh, shit, like, Shane's right, we shouldn't have come here, blah, blah, blah. Now, as Jenner's explaining, like, this is probably the correct way to go out. Now we see the look on Jackie and Andrea's face, like, maybe he's right. Like, especially days after Amy dying, Andrea really has nothing to live for anymore. Jackie's been alone for who knows how long. So you see the look on their faces now, like, yeah, no pain, like, no thinking about it, just no. And Jenner says it, no pain, no regret, no anything, like a couple seconds and that's it. Like, you're not going to feel anything. So that's where I saw the look on Jackie and Andrea's face, thinking about it, thinking like, maybe we should take this way out. Maybe we should opt out as well. They're trying to get through the doors. They're trying to hit it with an axe. Nothing's just working. And this is another funny line that maybe some comic relief in a all hell breaks loose type situation, Mark. He says those doors are designed to stop a rocket launcher. And then, of course, Daryl comes running in with an axe. Well, your head ain't. Just classic.
Such a Daryl move.
Oh, man. Yeah.
My favorite, too, is, like, originally, before we knew, how strong that door was, it was like watching Daryl and Shane go up there. I was like, dude, that's such a Daryl move. Just get it at, like, metal door? Oh, I can break through that with an axe. It's like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, such a Daryl move. And also, I like the little line he said after Jenner kind of told everybody, like, yeah, hey, the fate of the world is done. Like, everything's over. We sucked at our job. And Daryl goes, well, I'm gonna get shit-faced drunk again. Like,
Yep.
that was another good line, and just a couple of good Daryl moves in there. He was, like you said, that comic relief.
Yeah, he's always there. Again, in this first season, I'm looking forward to the second season to see if there was that same amount of one-liners and comic relief that Daryl has in this first season. So I'm excited to see what it's like in season 2, because even now I'm like, I don't remember Daryl being this funny in the first season. I don't remember any of this, and it's cool to see, and it's fun to see. And again, well, your head ain't like that. I mean, like, another classic Daryl line. And again, like you said, I'm gonna get shit faced. I'm gonna get drunk, and he says it too. I'm gonna get dead drunk again. Like, yeah. So just classic there. So yeah, basically Jenner saying maybe this is the right way. This is the way out. Just opting out and stuff like that. Shane goes absolutely batshit crazy in these next moments. I mean, he points a shotgun in Jenner's face. Rick has to talk him out of it. Knocks him to the ground and stuff like that. Takes the gun away, and again, another maybe foreshadowing moment. You know, Shane's laying on the ground. Everyone's just kind of in a daze of like, what just happened, and it almost pans the camera, Mark, onto every character in that room. Everyone's looking at Rick like, what's next? And I think this is where the transfer. I think everyone's done with Shane at this point. I think Shane has shown his last card, and that's it. Lori has been done with them, but I think this is where the transfer of power in the group changes from Shane to Rick in this couple of seconds. That's how quick it happened. And again, they pan around this room, Mark, and you see everyone looking at Rick for answers, like, what's next? How are we going to get out of here? Like, everything that you can think of, what they're thinking, they are asking Rick by just looking at him. And I think I mentioned transfer of power when we began the show, and this is it. I think this is where Shane is done. He's not the leader anymore. Yes, maybe Rick was wrong about coming to the CDC, but the way that Shane has just thrown countless temper tantrums about everything, it's Rick's group now. This is the transfer of power.
Yeah, no question. And like you said, that was one of my main takeaways from that entire scene was, as you said, everybody kind of looked towards Rick and not Shane. And you start, and what's funny is you really started seeing that in like the third episode, where more and more they were looking towards Rick instead of Shane. And kind of like that dependence of, all right, well, you've got our trust. What's the next move? You know, and you know, I think what's partly why Shane turned the way that he did was he saw it too. And, you know, he felt that unappreciation of, hey, you know, look what I've done for you, and you're tossing me aside like a dirty shirt. So I think that's kind of what started the turn of Shane and the whole group.
Yeah, and like I said, Lori had been done with them. Dale hasn't trusted him in forever, because remember way back in episode 1 or 2, he goes, I wouldn't trust him around my family. Like, that's where, and then he's making moves on way younger women, I guess. So that's where I think the transfer of power happens between Rick and Shane. So
I do got a question right quick.
Yeah.
What did you think? Because, I mean, obviously Jenner showed his hand where I'm planning on dying here, right? So, like, don't get me wrong, I understand everybody's kind of in a panic, but what the hell was Shane really thinking by pointing a shotgun at this dude's head? He's already ready to die. How's that going to solve anything that you're doing? Like, you need him to get out, right? Like, he knows how to work the system. He knows how to get out, get you out of there. He's got that little passcode keyboard thing. That's another move, and I think kind of people saw that in Shane. That would have got everybody killed if he did that.
Yeah, and I think that's what Rick said too. I think he says if you kill him, we're not getting out of here. Like we're all dying here. And then yeah, that kind of leads into the next sequence of they basically talk Jenner into it to open the doors. Like he goes, don't you want the chance? And yeah, that's all they want is a chance. And you hear Lori say, let us try for as long as we can. So they talk him into leaving. He again, like you just said, he puts in his little code. The door's open. He says, I can open this door, but I can't help you. Like where they came in at the original point of entry, where all the glass doors are in that little lobby area. He can't do nothing about those doors. I mean, those doors are meant to survive an earthquake, which again brings me to another continuity maybe suspect there. But he does open the door. They all grab their stuff. As they're about to leave, Rick says thanks, and Jenner pulls him close, whispers something in his ear. It definitely wasn't sweet nothings due to Rick's face a couple seconds after, because whatever he told Rick was just some bad news on everyone's front here. I'm gonna leave this up to you, Mark. Do we know what Jenner says, or do we save it couple seasons down the line when Rick finally confesses what Jenner said to him?
I think we should save it because I've been waiting for that talking point, because I believe, if I remember correctly, that's about the time I quit watching Area. But I think that's going to go in good. It'll be a good conversation piece moving forward.
Yeah, so we'll wait. I know what he said, but we'll wait until we'll wait till I guess Rick does say it. I don't know if it's next season or the season after. It is not too long from now, but Jackie says she's gonna stay. T-Dog's like, no, this is crazy. Dale flails his arm up as to say, I don't really care about you, Jackie. I'm looking behind you. And Andrea, so Andrea basically says, I'm staying too. And Dale tries to talk her out of it, obviously, because he wants that butt. And so he wants that booty. I mean, can you blame Daryl? Can you blame Dale at this point? And so, yeah, how bad does Dale want Andrea too? I mean, they can't get out. Was it right for Dale to kind of flip the script on Andrea, take her choice away, sit down, and basically forced her to leave? And taking like this whole episode is basically about having the chance, having the choice. Was it wrong for Dale to take her choice the way that she wanted to go out?
That one was tough for me, and that's exactly what I was thinking during that scene while he was explaining to her, basically, like, you can't, your sister Amy would want this, and this isn't right. This isn't how you do it. And part of me wants to say he was right, and part of me wants to say he was wrong. Why I think he was wrong? Because I think he wasn't doing it for her. I think he was doing it for him, for his needs and wants and wishes. But I don't think at any point that anybody should just give up like that, because that kind of made me dislike Jenner and Jackie, where it's like, yeah, you know what? We're just gonna quit. Like this is up. Like I hate that give up, mentality of well, there's why bother. Like, so for me, I think he was right in that sense, and for all of our sake, I'm glad he did get her out of there, because she ends up, being a badass down the road.
Yeah. So I thought it was a little wrong of Dale to kind of take that choice away. I get it. He cares for her. Again, he wants to hit that. I get it. You're gonna want to save that baddie, if you will. Hey, Andrea's pretty nice on the eyes, but she just wanted to go out. Like, she just wanted her choice not to be taken away. And I think it was wrong for Dale to kind of force the hand, force that card, and take away her choice. Again, glad he did, because it gives us Andrea for longer, obviously. So, and if that choice wasn't, I guess, forced upon her, then maybe we don't again get the badass we do in later seasons. So That was it. We go to the top. We go top side. The group can't get out again. Something stupid that I noticed. Like they're obviously trying to hit the glass. It's obviously bulletproof glass. It's supposed to withstand a terrorist attack, if you will. Good thing the terrorists. They better have hope that terrorists didn't have grenades apparently. But they're trying to hit it with an axe, and then T-Dog goes up there and tries to hit it with a chair. Like if it's not gonna crack with an axe. Like,
Yeah.
why are you trying to hit it with a chair? So that was kind of dumb. I did notice that, and again, Carol tells Rick, like, I've just been stowing away this grenade for safekeeping in case we need it. And what is she gonna quilt it into a blanket if they didn't need it here? But again, if a bullet can't penetrate the glass, was a grenade supposed to penetrate this glass? Because again, this is your first line of defense, this little lobby, if a terrorist attacked or whatever the case may be, Mark. So do you think that a grenade was supposed to really knock out this glass like it did?
I asked myself that same question. We need the Mythbusters here. We need an episode on this. And not only that, but when it did explode, right? Only one window got broken. The rest around it were just fine. Did you notice that?
Well, they said it. They put controls in that said just one window. That's all we need.
Yeah. So that was kind of crazy to me too. And yeah, I didn't buy it. I wish they would have found something more believable, but hey, it wasn't in the script that way.
Well, and I get, that's all they had. Like they tried guns, they tried axes, they tried a folding chair. They had they tried everything. They tried everything at their disposal to break that glass. And poor T-Dog just whacking away with a folding chair like that. So move. Funny. Yeah, so funny. Poor T-Dog. I mean, I feel bad for Irony Singleton, who plays T-Dog. They made you look kind of stupid there. But as again, we put the grenade down. It does blow that one single pane of glass. Again, that's what they set it for, though. That's all they needed.
Yeah.
Again, they run out to the cars. We see Dale and Andrea make it out just in time. Again, maybe some continuity errors here as well. We see the CDC explode, go up in flames. We see the shock it puts out on the ground level. Of course, it doesn't reach our group, which again, I think I mentioned this last episode when they parked, they walked so far to the entrance, and then when they left, they didn't go that far. But I feel like the aftershock or the immediate shock of this blast would have maybe affected them a little bit, maybe tipped over the RV. No,
I feel the same way, and looking at all the graphic on it, all the graphics on it, where it's like, oh, so just stop there. That's where it stops. As big as that explosion was, and not only that, but what did Andrea and Dale have? Like 20 seconds. So now they go from underground to topside and out of harm's way in that amount of time. I just feel like there's a couple holes in this part of the story.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I noticed a lot of continuity, I guess, errors in this. And again, maybe just being the first season had something to do with it, Mark, working out the kinks and stuff like that. And if they were able just to hit the CDC forever, like we wouldn't have 10, 11 seasons of this. If it didn't, if it did explode and killed everybody, we wouldn't have 10, 11 seasons of this. So you kind of see where they were going. But again, a blast that big, you especially with all the chemicals and fuels within that place, I guess maybe they burned all the fuel I don't know. I'm not is it a physics major at this point? I don't know who studies that type of explosion, but so yeah, the CDC blows up with probably all their hope. They drive off. One thing I did notice as they drove off to Bob Dylan, by the way, Bob Dylan takes us home, and this might be one of the last times too that we see when an episode ends, we hear like a famous artist singing a song. I think season 1 was the end of that, because they were like, we're getting a season 2. If we got to pay these artists to get the music rights, we're not going to have, a little expensive. But I did notice as they were driving off, Shane was alone in the little Jeep. I don't know if that was intentional, because I think maybe T-Dog was alone in the other car, and then everybody else kind of packed in the RV. But do you think I'm just looking too much into it that Shane just kind of drove off by himself, and at the end of the little caravan?
Yeah, well, he was at the end to begin with, right? Wasn't he? If I remember correctly, they put him at the end.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He was the last kind of to drive off too.
Yeah. So that was, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of caught the same thing, because I was like, I wonder if that was their way of trying to foreshadow future events, or maybe trying to show that the group is now starting to distance themselves. I don't know, because I felt the same way. I don't know if we're looking too much into it or not, but that was an interesting little pickup. And yeah, even when, like, because you gotta think, if they're trying to run and beat this explosion. Personally, and this is just me, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I'm gonna pick an RV, because I'm gonna try and get in there and drive away, right? Like, I'm gonna try and pick something quick, and everybody chose the RV.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just because it holds more, I'm
Right.
just because they can fit everybody in there, they can fit all their stuff. And like I said, when the explosion goes off, you think something would have been tipped over. I don't know. And it also could have been just Shane maybe distancing himself from everyone too. Like I said earlier, when Lori had to basically scratch him off of her, like he's like, I'm done. Like, I'm done trying. I'm done listening. And we kind of foreshadow. It is a foreshadow to the second season. Spoiler alert, that I'm just kind of gonna distance myself. I'm just gonna maybe one day go my own way at this point, because everyone stopped listening to me. I can't bang the hot mom anymore. Like, I can't be Coral's dad anymore. Like, I can't. Everything I think stolen is a very bad term, but everything I gained, maybe that's a bad way to put it, but everything Shane gained from Rick being in the hospital, from this apocalypse happening, is literally slipping out of his hands. So maybe he's starting to distance himself as well.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. I think we're so focused in on how the group is taking it, we kind of forget about how Shane's feeling. So that's a good pickup.
Yeah. So yeah, and then they drive off with the classic Bob Dylan playing, and we see the black smoke lift into the air, and that is the end of season 1. 6 episodes. Again, we touched on this kind of when we started this rewatch podcast, that this season was only going to be 6 episodes, and just because clearly that they didn't know if it was going to go on. Now we're going to start getting into the thick of it. Season 2, I think we're in the upwards of 12 to 15 episodes a season now. So it's going to get hefty. It's going to get thick. It's going to get deep, just like Dale and Shane wanted to be in a couple of our females. But that's the direction that we're headed. So overall, what did you make of the season as a whole? Rewatching it, I know it's been a while since you had rewatched it. Kind of like watching it for the first time. Just overall, I guess if you had to put a grade on it, if you had to put a number, like 1 through 10, 10 being the high, like what would you kind of grade this first season?
Yeah, I think I'm giving it a 8.7. I think ultimately they nailed it. Like, rewatching it, like I said, bringing back kind of that nostalgia, and it's a great storyline, right? I mean, obviously they went 11 seasons, correct?
Yeah.
I think
it's 11.
Plus all the spinoffs. So I mean, obviously they nailed the storyline down, and got that where all of us enjoyed it for many years, and even now with, like I said, with the spinoffs. So I think as a first season, kind of looking back, watching it the second time, it's like, and they really took one hell of a crack at it to try and keep this project afloat, that ended up turning to be one of arguably the best series in this kind of genre out there. So yeah, 8.7, loved it. And now, like, it's funny, I'm excited to keep watching like it was new all over again.
Yeah, and like I think I said how I was introduced to The Walking Dead. I started watching it in the middle of season 2 because I had to catch up. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was saying, you got to watch it. And this was back when I think I think the new episodes were season 3 still coming out. That's how far or how long ago this was. And so yeah, I like I said, I went back on the iPad and started just buying an episode at a time just to catch up, because that's how you had to do it back then. You couldn't. It was just iTunes running the world back then. You had to buy it one episode at a time. So that's how I did it. I caught up, binged a season and a half in one night, and then I caught up and then started watching all the new episodes from there on out. So yeah, it's the first season. I would give it a right around, I think, where maybe what is contract to a 8.7. I think that's probably maybe correct me if I'm wrong, maybe a B+ to an A-, right around that area. That's kind of where I live in this first season. Again, of course, rewatching it, we're going to kind of point out the maybe some stupid continuity errors, if you will, and maybe they're not even errors. Maybe they just threw it in and hope nobody noticed. But I like to scrutinize TV shows down to the bare skin, if you will, and so. Yeah, first season obviously good. I will say I will foreshadow. The second season is probably my favorite season of the entire series. So I'm looking forward to season 2. Anything you're hoping to re-explore, to reopen, or just what are you most looking forward to heading into season 2?
To finish it, like I said, I stopped watching right after the whole Shane ordeal. So. I'm more excited to, and like you said, back then it was it was kind of on the harder end to watch. I was a broke college kid, so if you didn't have somebody with cheap cable,
I mean, yeah, it was a lot to purchase one episode at a time in those days.
Yeah, so and for me, I had a cheap laptop and no iTunes, and so if I didn't have AMC at my disposal, I was not watching this show. And so I'm more excited to kind of watch from the point that I stopped all the way on. I mean, there's very unfortunately very little for me to kind of remember besides the main points. So I'm more excited to kind of, it's going to be new for me from here on out.
Yeah, that's always exciting, and that's what I was excited to do when everyone was talking about it. Go back and watch it and stuff like that. And back then wasn't too dialed into trailers and stuff like that. And like you said, iTunes was expensive, and yeah, even at $1 an episode, you're just like, hey, I could have bought a cup of noodles for that much, So now, by the way, we are not going to do stuff and things this week because, like I mentioned last week, the comic is just not lining up. I could still go on, and we'll do stuff and things the whole season 2. And we'll just talk about how it differs so much right now from the comic. And I think I touched on it last week. They're already at a settlement. There was no CDC. There was no Dr. Jenner. And just to recap comics from season 1, Mark, there is no Dixon brothers. So, and spoiler alert, if you haven't read the comic, Carl has already shot Shane in the forest. So Shane is already dead in the comics. That's another one of the big differences besides no Dixon brothers. So, as we move on to season 2, right there behind me, there's the cover of the season 2 DVD. By the way, those are, speaking of in the past, no longer doing DVDs, but there is right behind me season 2 of
We're
The Walking
old,
Dead.
aren't we?
And you see them running. We're running to season 2. So that's where we are. But that is gonna do it for us here on The Stalking Dead. Don't forget, season 2 premieres next week. We will dive in to the OG Walking Dead series right here on The Stalking Dead, Recliner Media, reclinermedia.com. Don't forget, subscribe, like all of our socials, as we mentioned at the top of the show. For Mark Saxton, I am Michael Spillin. We will talk to you next week.